Stumbling home, we don't know where we're going. Should've turned back hours ago. Out of our minds, I guess we're sleeping outside. You're still a good time, even in the cold.
Hello, welcome to Defender Adventure. We are Paul and Chrissy from the UK, and with our Land Rover Defender that we have called Sterling, we are travelling the world.
Guess we need a new plan. There's a motel a mile down the road.
Since we had left home on the 7th of April 2019, this was the destination we had been heading for. This green floating cabin would be our home for the next 3 months. We would live with Jerry and his friend Carmen, helping them with all manner of things, in particular the running of Jerry's small floating oyster farm. We felt it was a wonderful arrangement, with us providing our time and effort and Jerry providing food and accommodation.
We soon learnt that living in this type of environment is very much about survival. Shortly after arriving on the island on our first day, Jerry asked if we wanted any lunch. We said that sounded like a great idea, and Jerry said, well, let's go and catch it. Nearly everything we ate for the next 3 months was from the sea, so as non-fishermen, we had a lot of learning to do. Jerry had endless patience with us as he taught us how to fish and fillet bass, halibut, salmon, and a number of other species. We pulled and prepared large numbers of shrimp,
Not bad.
Oh, that's all right.
and of course we ate too many oysters to count. It wasn't all work though, and we had plenty of time to relax and explore the island. In the small town of Klawock, we got to see a local native craftsman making a new totem pole to join the others at the totem park. Jerry even took us to a remote island to see a chief's burial site complete with very old totem poles. We took trips to the north of the island, we visited Salt Chuck Mine, an abandoned historic gold and silver copper mine. It even had the remains of an old barge used to ship the extracted material from the area. We camped in our vehicle in a number of locations around the island, with one of our favourite places being Rats Harbour. It was here that we got to see our first killer whales, although they were some distance away.
But our most favourite adventure was spending a couple of days on Eagle Island, an uninhabited island where we were miles from anyone and everyone. Getting to Eagle Island was a challenge, as the only way there was by kayak, so we had to spend a bit of time practicing first.
Whilst this southeasterly area of Alaska, close to the Canadian border, wasn't the iconic snow-capped mountainous region of Alaska, it still had its own special beauty. Including plenty of wildlife, from the smallest of species to some of the largest. Up until this point of the video, we've covered a lot of ground and touched on a number of different subjects, but the one thing we haven't talked about is the people that we met in Alaska. Before we left home, I would let my imagination wander at times about how excited I was to be going to Alaska, what I might see there, the landscape, the scenery, the wildlife. But if I'm honest, I didn't really give a lot of thought to the people that we would meet. And looking back now, I have to say it was the people that we met there that made our time in Alaska and in particular in on the Prince of Wales Island so very special. We were lucky enough to have a large number of adventures while we were there, but it really was the people that we shared those adventures with that made them the adventures that they were. Most of them we've been sworn to secrecy about, unfortunately, but they know and we know what happened. I think it was possibly one of the first times where I really did come across the community spirit. It's a phrase that's bandied around a lot, but there you really did see everybody was there for everybody else. The early mornings that I spent fishing with Jerry, we'd have a brew and then we would head off out just to be out there. The stillness of the ocean early in the morning, no one else around, cut the engines on the boat, just drifting, and you could hear the humpback whales blowing in the distance, see the bald eagles coming down to catch fish. It was fantastic. I shall never forget my time out with Jerry in those early mornings. And Jerry himself was very much loved in the community. We had a huge number of people that would just pull up to his float house on their boat, come along and just sit down, have a chat and a coffee and maybe a tequila, and then they'd say their goodbyes, and after they left I'd say to Jerry, what did they want? And he'd say they didn't want anything, they just called in to say hello and how are you? And it was through Jerry and these people that called by that we met a lot of different people. We became good friends, I think, with a number of these people. Friends that we keep in touch with to this very day.
Firstly, there was Deb and Joe, which I think they were Jerry's closest friend. They kindly allowed us to leave Stirling on their property while we were staying with Jerry.
Joe's brother Mark had unfortunately passed away a few weeks before we arrived on the island. And even though we'd only been there a few weeks, hadn't really got to know many people, we were invited to the memorial for his brother, and for us that was great. It was a fantastic way to meet a lot of people in one go. We even met a man called Tracy, who would actually go on to repair our truck a few weeks later.
Joe and Deb, along with Ronnie, had a private bar, and you only went there by invite, and we were honoured to be invited on many occasions.
But it wasn't just a bar.
No, it wasn't.
It was a bar / greenhouse / tool store / anything else you wanted it to be, really. Ronnie, I would say, was, along with Deb and Joe, one of the most generous people that we've come across. But I also have to say he was one of the grumpiest people I've ever come across. For a barman to ask you if you want a drink, and then when you say yes please, to tell you to go and get it yourself, and to tell guests like you to...
Yeah, I sat on the seat and he had a go at me for sitting in his seat, and I didn't know it was his seat. It didn't have Ronnie's seat on it.
But yeah, we were very lucky. They were very, very generous people that looked after us there.
Yeah.
Barbecues were held at random locations on random days of the week at random times of the day. There's no rhyme nor reason to it, but spontaneous barbecues would burst out, and we got invited to a lot of those, and again met a lot of new people and made some new friends. It was back to that community spirit. It was very good to be a part of for a short period of time.
One of Jerry's closest neighbours, who were the only residents on a nearby island, were Mike and Corinne. They lived in a wonderful house and knew very well that living with Jerry meant that we would be eating fish and shellfish. Corinne made it her personal mission to make sure we were occasionally fed some meat.
We made a number of other friends along the way, but one couple that we spent some wonderful times with was Scott and Leslie, or Hooter as he was known. He was the image of an Alaskan. If I had to draw an Alaskan man, I would draw Hooter. The grizzly looks, the big shaggy beard, but his nature was nothing like his looks. I had some wonderful times with Hooter, some great laughs with him, but again, back to generosity.
They were lovely.
Him and Leslie, they allowed us to stay in the cabin that they owned next door. They fed us, they even stocked us up with moose meat, jellies that they prepared, fish that they'd frozen. When we left the island, we were well stocked. And on one occasion...
Oh. Sorry. On one occasion, yes, he let me have a go at his side-by-side. I'd never driven one before.
But it didn't show.
And it didn't show he was nervous.
We're going to make the vlog again.
Go on, Alfie, ready?
Okay, now don't run into nothing.
Is there a handbrake? Is there a brake?
No, just give it a little gas. Brake it hard.
To all those wonderful people on the Prince of Wales Island that we met, We thank you from the bottom of our heart, and hope it's not too long before we see you again.
Leaving the island and saying our goodbyes after 3 great months was not easy. It's quite hard to do, but on the other hand, on the flip side, we were quite excited to be on the move again, and this time we were heading north. We were going to take the ferry off the island back across to Ketchikan, and from Ketchikan we would take the Alaska Marine Highway up the Inside Passage to a small town called Skagway, where we would then cross the border back into Canada, explore the Yukon, and head back then into the interior of Alaska. And we'll bring all of that to you in our next video. But until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.